Welcome to West Country Wanderings and welcome to one in my Cornwall series. Today we're going to have a trip to the Cornish town and port harbour seaside resort of Falmouth. It's about 12 miles from where I currently am. Where's that? Well, this is my accommodation just off the North Cornish Atlantic coast near to the town of Redruth, which is where I used to live. What I'm going to do shortly, after I've just shown you around this lovely accommodation here, is to drive into Redruth, park up there, catch a train to Truro, and then the branch line train from Truro into Falmouth, so we can have a look around there. But this is really nice. I've just got 2 nights here. As I say, it's close to Redruth, about 3 or 4 minutes drive from Tesco's in Redruth, if you know what that is. Got 2 huge bay windows there and there, patio doors. I'll show outside there, and it is just me staying here. It does have, though, additional accommodation for families here. So in here you've actually got 2 bunk beds. That's amazing, isn't it? So it's really good for families, like a couple with 2 children. That's really good. And you've got a large space here. I love these windows letting in lots of light, 'cause it's still fairly early-ish in the morning here. So we've got a large dining table here. I haven't switched the TV on. You know me, I'm not a TV person, but there is a TV there if you're so inclined to watch TV while you're away. I just like to listen, maybe a little bit of radio and catch up on readings. But you've got here microwave, full oven facilities, a huge fridge, the obligatory fridge shot. And down there we've got a freezer down there. I've only just got a couple of items, as I say, I'm only here for a couple of nights. Here you've actually got 2 sofas, so they're kind of around the TV. So you've got 1 sofa there, another sofa here. I've packed my bags ready to go out shortly. Here we've got quite a large bedroom, which is the one obviously I'm using. Come in. Here we go. So there we go. So nice bedroom there again with lots of light. So although it was dark when I got up this morning and had breakfast, the light soon flooded in, which was really good. And then obviously here we've got full bathroom facilities. I'll just switch that on, the fan will come on now, so it'll be a little bit noisy and the colours will be wrong, but there we go. Nice big shower there, bathroom, toilet, window there, all that stuff. So really good. I'm really pleased with this accommodation. Obviously we're in mid-October now. You'll probably be watching this towards the end of October. But it was really good value. Obviously, in the summer months, Cornwall can be very expensive. But towards mid-October and onwards to the rest of the year, apart from kind of Christmas, New Year period, Cornwall can be really good value. Let's just have a quick look outside. So as you can see, we're on a high point above the cliffs. So there's the North Cornwall cliffs over there. Just down there is Redruth Harbour. You might be able to make out a golf ball over on the cliffs there. That's in fact where I used to work, at RAF Portreath. It's a radar station. It was a radar station when I worked there, but I think now it's less people actually work there, and it's like a remote radar head there with a bit of radio facilities as well. So we've got all this. St Agnes Beacon is over there. Got all this garden here space, so that's the chalet. It's completely detached chalet here. And when it's warmer, not quite so well, it was quite chilly when I got here last night, you have got outdoor seating for eating outdoors, and there's that lovely view of farmland down there. And I say, the town centre is only just a few minutes drive away, or walk. You could probably walk it in about 20-25 minutes or so. So really nice accommodation here. Really pleased with this. I'm going to get ready now and set off into Redruth to catch a train to Falmouth. So I'll see you over there. Well, now in the town of Redruth, I'm actually in Bond Street, making my way to the railway station. This shop here is called Wiztech Computers, and it's where I got my first computer back in 1999. I'm not sure if it's closed or if it's undergoing a refurbishment, but yeah, 26 years ago I was introduced to the world of the internet. Dial-up, do you remember that? All that noise, trying to get attempt of 1 of 7, trying to get through, and choosing different times to connect to the internet. That's where it all started there, Wiztech Computers here in Redruth. But yeah, I'm not sure what's happening to that now. Here at the bottom of Bond Street, Bassett Street up there, with the chimney there from the mining heritage. We're crossing off this way, very low bridge here, which dips under the Cornish main line, We can go up here. I know it's westbound. I'm catching the London train towards Truro. It's only about a 10-minute journey. We'll make our way up here to Redruth railway station. So I'll show you a couple of clips of that, and then I'll see you in Truro catching our train to Falmouth. Now at Redruth railway station, I'm on the westbound platform for Penzance Camborne. That there is Redruth Railway Club. It used to be the BR people that worked. Is it called the GWRSA, something like that? But now it's the Redruth Railway Club. I don't think it's for staff anymore. It might be for model railways. Oh yeah, it does still say GWRSA, so I think it probably still is then in that case. I need to go up over the footbridge. The train is on time to London, but as I say, we're only going to Truro today to get across to Falmouth. But let's get across this delightful GWR footbridge here. It's it was restored quite a few years ago, indeed the station was, and it's a really delightful station here at Redruth in Cornwall. Here we are in the city of Truro, capital of Cornwall, of course. That's the main tracks down there in the direction of Penzance. We need to cross over after leaving the London Paddington train, going on to the Penzance bound platform, but into the little bay to catch our train to Falmouth docks.
Hail, St Earth and Penzance. This train has 4 coaches and 5.
Train to Falmouth docks will be leaving down from the bay platform down there, platform 1. So this is the Penzance platform, that's the train. I think it's gone from Edinburgh cross-country service. Train every 30 minutes down to Falmouth docks. There's 3 stations in Falmouth: Penmere, Falmouth Town and Falmouth docks. Interestingly, Falmouth Town, the platform there, came from the Perranporth line, the Newquay Perranporth Redruth Railway, and it was from Perranporth Beach Holt. I've done a video on that in part of my Cornish Railway Discoverers series if you want to look at that. But yeah, that was moved to Falmouth Town, which I opened sometime in the 70s. I can't remember the date of it, and it's changed its name as well. I think it was called the Dell. Today though, we're going to be getting off the train at Penmere, but catching the train back to Redruth at Falmouth Dock Station, because we're walking through the town. You'll see, I'll put a map in now, it will become clear. Let's catch our train to Falmouth. Well, I've got off the train at Penmere platform, which is closer to the moor part of the town. I'll explain more about the moor when we get to the moor. And then I'll be walking through a very long section of the town to give you a tour of the town and telling you a little bit about its history. Not too much in depth, but just give you a background. It's a really interesting town with, actually it's surprisingly newer than you probably think it may be, but we'll come on to that. But Penmere platform actually opened in 1925, so this year it celebrated its 100th anniversary. They did have a little celebration here on the platform, and there's a poster up here telling you about it. So it's really convenient for the moor end of the town. You're probably thinking, why, when the railway opened here, it was 1863 something to Falmouth, why didn't they have a station here originally? Well, there wasn't much at the moor. It's a simple answer to that, because that development around there grew up later, so they didn't really need one here. But as you can see here on the platform, they had a big celebration on the 1st of July, which is when the railway opened here in 1925, or rather this station out here. Got some other things here. There's a plaque there, 30 years of the Friends of Penmere station. Hugh Merriman MP there, and we're also on what's known as the Maritime line, which is pretty self-evident. These aren't as old as you think they are. I think these came out either late 80s or early 1990s. There's one that way at the station at Penmere as well, and I think there might be one a little bit further on another station on one of these. Oh yes, Calstock. Actually, I was at Calstock, was it last January before last, and I think they've got one of those at Calstock station on the branch line to Gunnersleg. Yeah, also here in Cornwall, but on the line that comes out of Plymouth. And so yeah, this is great. There used to be, there's wonderful flower displays here, which are courtesy of the Friends of Penmere station. And you can see that it's actually won loads and loads of awards like Britain in Bloom, RHS, It's Your Neighbourhood, Community Rail Awards. The other thing to tell you in terms of railway terms, I know this is not railway, and we will be getting into the town, so don't worry, we'll be away from railways soon, is that there was a siding here further down that end. There's no evidence of it now, you can't see anything down there now, but there used to be a siding down there, and that served an oil depot which opened during the Second World War, and it was actually bombed during the Second World War, causing a huge fire over the town here of Falmouth. Anyway, we're going to leave the station here now and head down into the town centre at the moor, which, yes, used to be a moor. In fact, it was just an area of boggy land with nothing there until the 19th century. So let's go down there to the moor and start our tour here in the town of Falmouth. I'm now walking down Gyllyngvase Street, which is an important part of Falmouth's history. Well, the name Gyllyngvase, because it was the Gyllyngvase family that this town grew up in the earlier part of the 1600s. The town started when King Henry VIII, yes, him with the 6 wives, decided to build a castle promontory at Pendennis. That's still there. Very, very important castle there on the headland to protect what are known as the Carrick Roads, which is essentially the River Fowl's estuary, although it's not a true estuary like the Severn estuary we cover here on West Country Wanderings. It's actually a ria, very similar to the one Kingsbridge Salcombe estuary, because that was formed during the Ice Age and when the ice melted, essentially flooding the valley. So that's what you have here, the Carrick Roads, bottom end of the River Fowl. Just going past All Saints Church here as we go along Gyllyngvase Street, and the moor is at the bottom of Gyllyngvase Street, and as I say, it grew up in the 19th century after other parts of the town down towards the dock and what is now known as Millennium Square, where the National Maritime Museum is. It's where that all grew up. But in the 19th century, or the start of the 19th century, it was purely marshland with a stream running through it, which headed out towards where the Prince of Wales Pier is today. That was then drained, and then buildings grew up around there. Of course, today we've got the art gallery and the church, as well as something called Jacob's Ladder, which is a really interesting part of the moor's story. An interesting blue plaque up there on this building about a Cornish miner called John Harris, who lived in this property from 1857, this part of Falmouth, until his death in 1884. As well as being a Cornish miner, John Harris was a very famous Cornish poet, and there is a trust called the John Harris Society which leads to promote his work. I'll see if I can find any more about his work, and if there's a link to it, I'll put that in the description of today's video. So that there is the St Mary Immaculate, the Catholic church here in the town of Falmouth. One of the things that Falmouth is famous for, well in particular Penryn more these days, is its university, which kind of started around the 1990s. But this here is the famous marine school, so if you want to know all about marine and nautical things, this is the place to come. You might be able to see a building there with like blue glass, a round window. That used to be the drill hall, but it's now Falmouth's cinema. So we're now at the top end of the moor, the bottom end of Gyllyngvase Street, and we're starting to come into independent shops, like the flower shop here and an upcycling shop. I think there's a cafe down there as well. It is indeed hard to believe that the early part of the 19th century this was just a boggy, marshy area. with no buildings on it at all. The Palaccio Lounges today, which is a cafe bar now. It used to be what was known as the New Town Hall. Falmouth's original town hall is actually in the High Street. Let's see if we can find that on the way over there. Next to that you have what was the post office building there, and next to that, hidden behind the huts there, is Falmouth's famous art gallery and a museum. So this is the art gallery here, and a library. It was actually commissioned by a philanthropic gentleman called Passmore Edwards, who had the library in Redruth built, as well as the one in Liscard. So yes, we have him to be thankful for this, and the legacy of arts here in Falmouth. Entry to the library and of course the art gallery is free to all. Have a look around it. Unfortunately, they don't like you filming or photography in there, but if you do come to Falmouth, I've been in there many times. It is well worth a visit around. Some brilliant pieces of art in there. Up there we have what is known as the Old High Street, which is full of independent shops. Let's just have a quick look up there before we head down to the Prince of Wales Pier. So this is Jacob's Ladder. It's over 100 steps here. And we'll just go up a little way and I'll tell you why and who had it built. Jacob's Ladder was actually built by a gentleman called Jacob Hamblin. After the moor had been drained and some buildings started being built here and people came here, he had some buildings built at the top there on the terrace. There's actually an inn there called the Jacob's Ladder Inn. And because he was based in this part of the town, the commercial part of new part of the town here at the moor, he wanted to get access to his properties up there, which of course he was renting out. So he had these steps built here so his tenants could get from the moor up there to his properties at the top on the terrace there. Jacob Hamblin, creator and builder of the famous Jacob's Ladder here in the town of Falmouth. So inside there used to be the brewery yard, which has got some more independent shops inside it. It looks colourful with the bunting there as well, doesn't it? Now these buildings behind me, I actually remember these being built at some point in the 1980s. I used to live, as I say, in Redruth for a while in Truro, and later on, latter part of the 1990s, I actually worked here at Falmouth at WH Smithsey. I was a store manager. But these are known as packet quays. Where did that name come from? Well, it was to do with the packet service that left here from the town, starting from 1689, I do believe, and going right into 1825, somewhere there. I can't remember the exact date. And the packet service was a mail shipping service. Remember, in those days, the British Empire was huge. So I'm not talking about delivery vans around Cornwall lanes. I'm talking about ships, packet ships leaving from here, from the port of Falmouth, and going out to the wider British Empire to deliver important mail. Remember, there was no internet in those days, and there was certainly no air mail or anything like that. So shipping was the only way of communicating with the British Empire. So it was an important, vital indeed, source of communication here indeed, from the town of Falmouth right out to the wider world. On the other side of the Carrick roads there, you have the village of Flushing. Just round the nook there, that by the way is called Millionaires Row because of all the expensive properties on there. It's probably multi-millionaire row these days. You can see a very expensive one of those. What are they called? Gin palaces, isn't it? And just round the nook in there is the village of St Mawes, which you can get to via ferry from the pier we're going to look at next, right after this short break. So we're here at the top end of the high street again in Falmouth, so welcome back. What we're going to do now is actually start our tour of the town. Probably, no, we haven't even scratched the surface yet. We've been to the moor, had a look at the Packet Quays, so now we're going to head back along the high street all the way. It's nearly a mile long to Maritime Square, and I'll walk back there to Falmouth Dock Station to get my train back to Redruth and my accommodation. But that's a long way off yet, so we've got quite a bit of walking to do through the town here, so I hope you can join me here on West Country Wanderings in the town of Falmouth. Let's start walking. So here on the edge of the Prince of Wales Pier, you can get all kinds of boat trips. Got a lunchtime cruise there along the Helford River on the MV Princessa, and there's one for the St Maur's ferry even, and going on to Chalisic and Malpas, which is just to the south of the city of Truro. So this is the stone that was laid by HRH, the Prince of Wales, in 1903. And like what princes of Wales tend to do, they become later on kings, like our present king has. And this gentleman here became King George V, or King George V if you prefer in Roman numerals. But yeah, that was laid here. And also I think when it opened fully in 1906, the Earl or Duke of Killigrew, as in Killigrew Street, and the town here was set up, as I say, following on round there from the Arwenack Manor House just below Pendennis Castle, after Henry VIII's castle and all that. It was opened by him and he played a plaque there. And I think that one was here on this side, yes. So it's John, the Honourable John, Earl of Kimberley, and that was laid also in, well, a bit later, a couple of years later in 1905, presumably after they'd done some more construction on the pier here. There was a granite pier, so if you have a look here, you can see it's been extended for the ships and boats. So that's the original pier going out there, granite construction. And then, of course, it was extended there, which is the bit that is known as the Prince of Wales Pier, where all those ferry boats and day trip boats leave from today. This bit here is dedicated to lives lost during the Second World War and Operation Chariot, with all those men going off to Saint-Nazaire. 622 sailors in total. The Navy arrived here into the port of Falmouth in the 1700s, and that's the famous docks over there, and you can see some naval shipping there. Some of them are called, is it RFAs? I never know understand what that means, but some of them are to do with merchant shipping as well, and there's support vessels there, L330Y, I think that one is. So you've got another vessel, naval vessel right over there as well, and that is Pendennis Headland over there, which is where the castle sits. You can just make it out over there. It might be difficult with my wide-angle lens on though, but yeah, lots of naval ships get repaired here, as indeed they do, of course, at Plymouth, just over the other side of the Tamar. But yeah, it's still a really important port here with much going on. And as I say, here you have all these steps which lead you down to the various points where you'll catch your boat to go across on a trip to the current roads. Places like St Maur's, which will cost you just £10 return for the day. I can highly recommend St Maur's. It's going to be a bit of a rough crossing if you did that today. But let's go back to the high street and continue our journey on to Maritime Square. To mention this was once the Marks and Spencer's department store here in Falmouth. Sadly now long gone, which is surprising because it is quite a populous town. About 25,000 people live here in Falmouth, and it's become more prosperous since the university opened, and indeed has now become extended as well. Now I'm entering the main shopping area here, coming up to Boots. Got Costa Coffee behind me, Cafe Nero, EE, all of that stuff. Still make the Marks and Spencer's clock out here, hidden behind the scaffolding. Important department store here once in the town of Falmouth, now going to become 14 exclusive apartments. So that was where I used to work there, T.G. Jones, which was of course once W.H. Smith's. That building there, which is now the card factory, used to be Falmouth's police station. Point there is Fish Strand Hill, and that's where Charles Darwin once left from. on the Beagle while he arrived here, and they left by Royal Mail coach to get back on his boat again. Of course, it left from Mount Edgecombe, also here in Cornwall, opposite the other side of the city of Plymouth. I always admired the frontage of that. I think possibly it might have been a cinema at one time as well, but this is St George's Arcade. It's not particularly exciting inside it, but yeah, it looks wonderful, doesn't it? As it's signed, you've got what is now the Pocket Full of Stones. It was once Wynn's coffee shop next to Mr Ragamuffins, traditional greengrocer. Well, there are some empty shops here along the high street. It's good to see that, generally speaking, most of them are still in business. Great to see. Let's make our way up to the church now. Shop here, actually, Tall Ships Trading has been here quite a number of years. It's a great place to get a gift here in the town of Falmouth, which is maritime focused. Coming along to the Polly. Before that, of course, you've got Falmouth Bookseller. Always attracts some top authors there doing book signings. You can see we've got the Falmouth Book Festival coming up. People like Prue Leith, Tim Key, Fern Britton, Hugh Fernie Whittingstall, Pam Ayres, Jay Griffiths, Miranda Sawyer, Jonathan Porritt. Oh, that's quite a list. Anne Irving Welsh. Wow. So the Cornwall Polytechnic, founded by Anna Marie Fox and Caroline Fox. I think they were sisters. In 1833, the Cornwall Polytechnic Society was set up, and it's now a theatre, cinema, art gallery, skill shop, pottery, cafe bar, and a history archive here in the heart of the town. So the church here in central Falmouth, though there are other churches dotted around the town, is known as King Charles Martyr, although strangely there's no sign to say that. It's just got the abbreviation KCM, not sure why. But King Charles, as in, yeah, Battle of Worcester, English Civil War, yada yada yada, Monarch's Way, which we've covered many times here before. Also next to it, the church here, it's got a telephone box, which has got an actual telephone box, and it is actually working. I needed to quickly grab a seat before we continue along this very long high street here in Falmouth to get to Maritime Square. So I'll see you again after this short break. Well, welcome back after the break. As is, we're coming back around the side of KCM, so there it is there. King Charles Martyr Church here in Falmouth, and back into the high street, making our way around to Millennium Square. Unfortunately, the church is locked. It looks like they probably do get some trouble with antisocial behaviour because the gates are all padlocked here, which is kind of a bit sad, but unfortunately in larger urban areas and town centres it's becoming an increasingly common problem these days. But nice enough church here in the town. It's kind of on a raised level above the high street itself, and you have this nice little snook round to the side of the high street. Some more nice shops down here. Longstaff's, Spice, Willow and Stone. Yes, it carries on and on and on, this one. Good to see shops that I remember from the 1980s still open here. I certainly remember Simpsons back in the early 80s. Another shop there that I remember is Wern's, which was established in 1869. Now, I don't remember when it was established, but I certainly remember it from the 80s. Let's continue here. Here is Bookmark, another old shop, which is a second-hand bookshop. It's a good place to browse it. And another one I remember was Arwinick, newsagents and off-licence. Looks like a ferry is leaving down there at the moment. Just here in Wennock Street, Harbour Strand. And another shop there I remember as well, Sounds OK, which is a record shop, yes, and still going strong as well. Brilliant. And this on this side, now called the Stable, selling sourdough pizzas, was the original custom house here in Falmouth, an important building back in its day. And that there is probably the most famous fish and chip shop here in Falmouth, Harbour Lights. These buildings here in Falmouth is known as Admiralty Terrace. Yes, it actually built for the Admiralty when that arrived. I think it was not sure if it was built in the latter part of the 18th century or the early 19th, but certainly connections to the Royal Navy here in the town. I couldn't come to Falmouth without pointing the very famous Trago Mills, and I'm sure that will need no introduction to you, certainly if you've holidayed or visited or indeed live here in the county and Duchy of Cornwall, stroke Kernow. So that one I mentioned earlier on is actually numbered L3008 Mounts Bay. I think I have seen that one here before. And this is the entrance, or one of the entrances, to Falmouth harbour. And indeed, Falmouth High Street and shopping area is so big that it needs a Tesco at either end of it because it's so long. This is the one here at Millennium Square. There was one there back on the moor. So now come to Discovery Quay here on the end of Millennium Square. I'll just do a double back on it because I'm going to stop here for a coffee. So there's those military craft there, Mounts Bay, and also H131. I don't know what H131 is. It's undergoing some work. They're just heard the tannoy going off there. And I'm not sure if that one over there in the distance is actually a cable laying ship for Atlantic Communications, a huge cable drum. So Millennium Square here, which did open around about the millennium. I was still working in Falmouth when it opened. There's lots of eateries here. So you've got Pizza Express, a place called Kona. There's one there called Coffee. You've also got the Ranch, the Shed, and the Shack. So no shortage of places to eat and drink here, Millennium Square. And they do events here. You've got the Falmouth Sea Shanty Festival, which takes place. You've also got Falmouth Oyster Festival. We've got the up-and-coming Falmouth Book Festival, which I mentioned earlier. We're going to be going round to the beaches shortly. I'm still opposite Millennium Square, which is over there. There's a car park here. This is the Gyllyngvase stone. If you remember at the beginning of the video, I say the town grew up around Pendennis Castle, kind of around this area here. This was all developed in the 80s and 90s, and of course this was a millennium project in the 2000s. So this area has been completely transformed over the past 40 years to the present day. But this stone here has been here some time, and it's after the Gyllyngvase family, of course, who founded the town here of Falmouth, as I say, surprisingly early in the 1600s. Now, where did they live? Well, you don't have to go very far to find out where the Gyllyngvase come from, because if you remember, we were walking along the high street and we ended up in Arwenack Street. Well, Arwenack Manor is just there on the other side of the road. The Gyllyngvase monument actually was built by Martin Lister Gyllyngvase in 1731 out of Cornish granite. And Arwenack Manor is just here on the opposite side of the road, which I think gets overlooked by a lot of visitors here to Millennium Square and all the attractions of that Maritime Museum. And it's the oldest example of domestic architecture here in Falmouth, and they came about by marriage in 1385. And fragments of the original 14th century house remain. Of course, it was established in the mid-16th century by John Gyllyngvase, who was the first governor of Pendennis Castle there, being established by King Henry VIII there. And of course, they enlarged the house and then the town grew out from it. It became in poor condition in 1978 and then it was restored in the early 80s. Just going to walk on this pathway around the side of the National Maritime Museum. Again, I don't know if I can film in there, but if you're interested in boats and history of boats and shipping and its connections to Falmouth, the Atlantic and the British Empire, which I mentioned earlier on, packet ships, it tells you all about there, and they've got a fabulous collection of boats. It's a bit strange in nomenclature because it was the National Maritime Museum, but now it's National Maritime Museum stroke Cornwall, because there is another one, isn't there? I think that's in Greenwich, I do believe so. Yeah, it's a little bit strange, but it was all part of the same Millennium project here to boost trade and tourism and visitor numbers here in Falmouth. And this is midweek October. I can actually report that High Street was particularly busy on what is a grey and slightly chilly day. So if it's busy then in October on a not a great day, what's it like in summer peak and at Christmas time? But yeah, we also forded here on this plinth pathway here. Fantastic views across to the ships there in the docks. So I'm going to stop for a break and get all these leisure craft here as well. So I'll grab myself a coffee here. Hope you've been enjoying the tour so far. It's not the end of our Falmouth video though, because Falmouth has a third side to it. So we've got the shopping, leisure, art, craft side of it. You've got the boating side, of course the docks there, but it's got a third side to it. And that of course is the beaches. And some people do come to Falmouth and don't realise it's actually a seaside resort as well. But when you're in the high street and looking at the boats and shipping from here, you can't see any beaches at all because it lies on the other side. And that's where we're going to be heading next to after this short break. Now, a top tip from me would be to travel here by train. You know, I'm a endorsement of public transport here on West Country Wanderings, but for a very good financial reason. I've just checked the price of the car park there at the Grove. It's actually £6.20 for just 3 hours. Well, my train ticket from Madrid today, this is without a rail card, the price was £6.40. And obviously we can do lots of walking around without worrying having to park anywhere at all. So it's a really good thing, that, isn't it? And so I say, we want to stay here several hours, and you may well wish to do that if you want to explore the beaches and go to the castle and the Maritime Museum. 3 hours is nowhere near enough to spend in Falmouth, certainly if you've never been here before, because there is so much to see. It's so much packed into this Cornish town here. I always love these colourful terraced houses. I'm not sure what the name of this terrace is, if I can find the name of it, as we make our way from Millennium Square around to the beaches. You've got some, was that red hot pokers, I think they're called. So there's lots of tropical plants here in the gardens here because it's sheltered. It's very, very mild here, because you've got sea on, effectively, well, you've got the Carrick Road, should I say, on that side. The sea is on that side, as we'll see shortly. But yeah, I'm really enjoying my day here in Falmouth. As I say, it's a town I do know well. I haven't been here for a little while though, so we've done, if you're interested in Penzance and Mousehole and Newlyn, I did that back in the summer, so if you want to know what those places look like. And I've also done St Ives. I did a visit to St Ives last year. I may fit in a little short visit to Penmere before I head back to retrieve my accommodation. I can't promise that, but that may appear later as a little, maybe a photography short bite. I'll have a look at that. That's a town I don't really know, and I know it's undergone many changes with the opening of the university here in Cornwall. And yeah, so we've also done Newquay here. I've done a video on Newquay, hoping to revisit Newquay next year when the Cornish Metro opens properly with the hourly train service there. So look out for that one next year. Obviously, Cornwall is further away from where I live in Gloucestershire, so I can't get down here as often as I like, but I try to still keep the videos in my Cornwall series going on the channel. Well, that's the main entrance to Falmouth Docks down there, and the lifeboat and coastguard station. I don't have time to go down that bit today, but it's also worth looking, exploring. In fact, if you go to Pendennis Castle, the road there that goes up to it, you can look down and see the dock site in all its glory. Now this is our Falmouth branch line again here, so left to take us to Falmouth Dock Station, which you'll see towards the end of the video as I catch my train back to Truro and Madrid. But I remember freight trains actually going along here in the 80s. They were actually carrying oil into Falmouth docks. That's sadly no more and finished, well, quite a number of years ago now. Well, welcome to Castle Beach here in Falmouth. This is where all the hotels are. That's the Falmouth Hotel there. I remember going to that in, perhaps 1990s when I worked for Woolworths at St Ives. We had a conference there. It's been going at some restoration, very expensive place to keep up, I would imagine, but a nice place to stay nonetheless. There is a cafe there on the beach. I followed the lady that runs that on Facebook. I was putting out some great photographs, particularly the sunsets here in Falmouth. Good place to grab a cafe with a nice view, of course. Well, if you've not been to Falmouth before, most surprised to know it's got 3 beaches. As you can see here, it looks very, very different to where we were in the town with the shops on the moor and Millennium Square and the High Street and all of that. So I like these different facets to it. Looking at the docks and the castle, I think that'll need to lie for another time, but that's a story unto itself. We'll perhaps look at that next year on a future visit here to Falmouth on West Country Wanderings. I would say if you did come to Falmouth, allow yourself plenty of time. It's one of those towns. Some towns you can get round in a couple of hours or so. Falmouth is not one of those towns, particularly if you want to go to the Art Gallery, National Maritime Museum, or all the other places like the Poly, and well, there's so much here. It really is an excellent place with lots of facilities. We've still got something else to show you down here, which is a brilliant music venue, in fact, but it's where the music venue is sited. I think you'll enjoy that if you're not, well, you'll probably you'll enjoy it if you are familiar with it, but I don't know, but we'll go down to have a look at that shortly. But it involves a tunnel. Yeah, I'm not sure if the tunnel is open, but we'll go down to have a look at that, because it's a really nice place. But nice waves coming up here today, so there's a bit of a blowout at sea, so we're coming at waves coming in there on to Castle Beach here in Falmouth. Of course, this isn't the Atlantic rollers, but nothing as dramatic as what you'd see at the likes of Newquay or Bude or Perranporth or anywhere like that, but it's still pleasant enough. It's still a really nice resort to come to relax and chill, maybe do some shopping, take in show, cinema. So say you've got the Poly Cinema, you've also got the other one I showed you with that window there, which reopened, I think, in the 1990s by Merlin Cinemas. They're a cinema chain based actually in Redruth here in Cornwall, and they reopened the cinema in Weston-super-Mare there in North Somerset recently. Put a lot of investment into that, as well as many others across the West Country. So that's the Falmouth Hotel there. It's all been repainted on the outside and it's looking absolutely pristine. I think my YouTube colleague and friend Louise from South by Sunday's YouTube channel stayed there, I think, right about this time last year. She had a nice stay there in the Falmouth Hotel, grand views across the sea. So there's the Castle Beach Cafe there, solar panel roof, providing power to making some lovely, delicious frothy coffees. Well, I'm sure you can have tea if you don't like coffee. Another famous Falmouth Hotel here. 1893. This is the Royal Duchy. Of course, tourism sprang up when the railway arrived in the late 1860s, 1870s. And what we're going to do now is go down these steps and into a tunnel. Now the tunnel rather dramatically brings you out here, high above the sea, with the waves crashing on the rocks below there. Rather dramatic there. Disappointingly, it used to carry on. I know it's been bricked up for some time now. It used to carry on underneath the road and into where we're going to be heading to next. But we'll need to cross over for the road for that. But yeah, spectacular. It reminds me of Tunnels beaches in the North Devon town of Ilfracombe. Again, somewhere I hope to cover next year as I return to look at the Lost Railway Walk there from Mortow into Ilfracombe on the old Southern Railway. But that's for another day. It's very reminiscent of that. But this is just wonderful here in the town of Falmouth. Now, if you're a first-time visitor here to the town of Falmouth, obviously I know well, having worked here and lived nearby, but I think it's a delight, and I think sometimes visitors miss bits of it, including this bit here. We're here in the Pavilions Tropical Gardens. Come through that other tunnel there. It used to go all the way, so you used to be able to walk from Tropical Gardens here all the way through to the sea, right under the road. I think there might have been a partial collapse under the road there, obviously with heavy traffic these days. Beautiful plants here, tropical plants. It's like we're not in England at all now. We've gone somewhere in the tropics, haven't we? We've got these wonderful ferns here. I can never remember the name of this. Is it Formosia, something like that? I can't remember. I'm sure you'll know. You'll be able to tell me in the comments, won't you? And yeah, they're magnificent, really, really tall ferns here. We've also got some palm trees. Now these might be banana trees. I can't see any bananas on them, but wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, they're there. You can actually grow them in some parts of the southwest. They do grow them at a place called Overbeck's National Trust property there near the town of Salcombe. Again, somewhere we need to cover here on the channel, don't we? But here we've got something else, so let's just have a look at this. So this is a shell grotto. Now the shells in this grotto aren't from here in Cornwall, but they actually came from the Caribbean because they were used as ballast in ships and they were brought here into the port. And the cave would have been lit with a lantern hung from the ceiling. Apart from a cleaning 2011, this is exactly how this grotto would have looked 150 years ago. Isn't that absolutely amazing? So let's take you out to the tropical bit of the Pavilion Gardens there, go up the steps, have a look around the rest of the garden. I think we'll finish the video at Gyllyngvase beach down there because it's just a lovely, lovely beach here in the town of Falmouth. Well, probably the most popular one in the town. You need to watch your head as you walk up here and watch the steps if it's slippery, but fantastic carved out rock here. Perhaps it was used as a quarry for building in the town originally. I think that's probably what happened. Sorry, I'm crouching to get my head around the rock there. I know that looks slightly inelegant, but yeah, this is just a great day here in Falmouth. It's great to come back here again. And I do apologise, the channel's been running 4.5 years, and this is the first time I've done a video on Falmouth. But the West Country, of course, I cover it everywhere from Worcestershire right down to Cornwall. It's so big, it will take me a long time to cover. Well, I'll never be able to cover all of it, but we will keep pushing videos out as much and as I can here on West Country. Well, the gardens here, as well as being known as Princess Pavilion Gardens, they also go under another name called Gyllyngvase, as a gilly, as in the beach we're about to see. But they are always delightful, whatever time of year. Perhaps best in the springtime. We've got a tropical plant flowering down there, even in mid to late October. It's great to see pink flowers here. And it just gets better and better, doesn't it? It's one extraordinary place. Indeed, there is another garden here in Falmouth. There's several gardens here in Falmouth. I'm not going to have time to show you today. There's actually a poem here from John Harris, who we saw his house, didn't we? He was that Cornish miner, do you remember that? He had a poem called Gyllyngvase. How pleasant here at cool of day, along the winding walks to stray, where ebbs and flows the murmuring main, whose music fills the woodbine lane. High on the beach with single strewn, as rise thy vespers, Gyllyngvase. When last I chanced to ramble here, the winds were still, the skies were clear. Two lovers sat upon a seat, with ocean shining at their feet, whispering their loves beneath the moon, which filled with silver Gyllyngvase. Dear home of love, sweet haunt of peace, here weary lives dance bickering cease. A sacred song is on the air, which lulls to rest the storm of care, and lifts the heart to heavens high. My beautiful, my Gyllyngvase. John Harris. Isn't that absolutely lovely Cornish poem here in Falmouth. This is Darwin's garden. Now, Darwin actually landed back here after his scientific expedition on the HMS Beagle on the 2nd of October 1836. Now, if you're eagle-eyed and a regular viewer to West Country Wanderings, you may remember that we saw Darwin's house in the town of Shrewsbury when I was walking along the Severn Way. But this wonderful garden here in Gyllyngvase Garden Stroke Princess Pavilion Gardens has been created in his honour. Magnificent plants here. Absolutely fantastic. Now, they are doing some work around the Princess Pavilion itself at the moment, but they do hold regular concerts and events here. Part of the Falmouth Book Festival, which I mentioned earlier on, is going to be taking place here as well. I love that bandstand. There's actually a nice greenhouse down there full of hot plants like cacti, etc. There is a school party here at the moment, but I won't show the children behind me. But they are reseeding the grass there. As you can see, it'll be ready again for next spring properly. There is a cafe here over there as well. It's the events area through there. So here we are on Gyllyngvase Beach, or Gilly Beach as the locals know it as, with some waves, some dramatic waves actually. Sometimes it just little waves, shallow waves come in, but it is quite strong here. It's a nice sandy beach. There's a little bit of shingle mixed in with the sand. It's almost like a whitish sand here. This video today has only scratched the surface with Falmouth. There's so much more here. Obviously you've got the castle, you've got the docks properly, which we haven't looked at yet. You've got Fox Talbot Gardens, you've got Swanpool Beach, you've got Mineporth Beach, loads of other things as well. As I say, it only just scratches the surface in what has been probably quite a longer video here on West Country Wanderings. I've hoped you've enjoyed it from the town of Falmouth here in the beautiful Duchy of Cornwall in one of my Cornwall series. We'll be back here in Cornwall in the not too distant future. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, and I hope to see you on the channel before my feet get wet in the here on this beach here in Falmouth. Take care. All the best now. Bye bye.